Hello there, lovely people. This is Ashley here, sending my love from whatever reality I find myself in to you in whatever reality you happen to be bumbling in today. I'm really very grateful to everybody that's been following my little madness, my journey through the ME. Although, as you all know, if you've actually been watching me, I hate it being called the Mandela effect. But that's what we're labelled with, so we'll leave it there. But thank you for joining me. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you for being there, giving me support morally and emotionally, and for letting me know that even though most of the time I feel completely and utterly alone, that I'm not alone. Thanks to you people out there, I feel much calmer, much more stable than I ever thought I was going to feel. And so today, again, I've been given an opportunity to have a few minutes, so I'm grabbing them so I can just speak to you a little bit more about the things that are on my mind. And in this video, I'm going to tackle prophecies and myths and legends, because it seems to me that, as I touched on in my last video, I've been researching an awful lot of different things, and although I haven't come up with any answers, it does seem to me that prophecies, legends and myths seem to have some kind of connection to the Mandela effect. And we'll start off with prophecies. I had been waiting, I knew a little bit about the Sumerians, but I had been waiting for 18 years for the Mayan calendar 2012 to happen, and was sure that it was something to do with sunspot activity. I'd researched that far into it that I understood the magnetic cycles of the sun. And obviously waiting for 2012 for 18 years, I thought it was never going to come, and then suddenly it was upon us, and apparently nothing happened. Nothing happened. But we have to think about what the prophecy actually said, what it meant. It was the end of the fourth world, the end of the fourth age, and the beginning of a new age. Well, quite frankly, that actually seems to have happened, doesn't it? That's happened. We've had a massive change since 2012. We're now living in a new world. There's a new world. Those of us that are affected, we know it's a new world. The geography of our world is changing all the time. So this, that prophecy there on its own, just the very basics of it, the fact that it was about the end of an age and the beginning of a new age and the beginning of a new and forever fifth age, fifth world, that's what it was basically about. And yeah, for all, we woke up on the 23rd of December and carried on with Christmas and things, feeling that nothing had changed, nothing had happened. But we know from the Mandela effect, those of us that are affected, that this actually, the world has changed. Physically changed. The globe. I'm not getting into flat earth at all. I'm not disrespecting anybody that's flat earth, but the reality we are being taught and still taught, that globe that we've all seen for years, for centuries, has changed massively. So yes, we are living in a new world. So, the prophecy thing, we all used to, people used to dismiss prophecies as being, they didn't understand things properly, they weren't the same as us, we're more sophisticated. Well, for a long time, I've believed that we are one of many civilizations that have rose and been technologically advanced, and we aren't the only people that have, we're so arrogant to think that we're at the pinnacle of humanity's evolution. And then you have the out of place, what's the word? Discoveries that are out of time. That out of place, I can't even think what they're called. My mind's, I am an old lady and my mind is a little bit weird, but not weird enough to think that everything that's going on with the Mandela effect can be explained away by the fact that I'm an old lady with an old lady's brain. So yeah, the out of place artifacts, such as like there's been found, do you remember the clock that had, I think there were 58 cogs in it, that was, should never have been. It should never have been. And then there was that little Swiss watch that they found in China that was a ring on your finger. Out of place objects. Now, that also, it's not a prophecy situation, but it does show, these things show that we are not exactly as we've always been. you know, we're not, we now understand that we were taught that civilization had only been around for like 5,000 years, when now, I mean, Göbekli Tepe has taken us back to 12,000. But then that, even that makes me think, Göbekli Tepe, is that a Mandela effect? Because we didn't see it before, it wasn't telling me about Göbekli Tepe, wasn't saying anything until recently about it being 12,000 years further back, you know, at least 7,000 years further back than the 5,000 years were led to believe of civilization. So prophecies, we poo-poo them because they're, you know, that these people are a bit different to us. They're not sophisticated, or they haven't got the technology. But let's remember that the Mayans, their observations of their celestial observations and astronomy, it was all of their things, everything that they did with astrology. I'm sorry, I'm getting confused. Astronomy, everything that they were doing with astronomy was like they would have had to have known that information for thousands of years to be able to pinpoint all the places in the sky where where stars they were looking for were rising and setting. They couldn't just go, oh look, there's a building, look where it is, let's point that in the sky there and build it round it. They had to have proper information from before. So to just poo-poo prophecies has always to me seemed a bit ridiculous. And this is this is how arrogant we've become as a species, to think that, we're poo-pooing it because these people lived so far long ago, that how could they possibly know what we know now? So we've dismissed prophecies. But I believe that prophecies are part of its memory from the time before, just as we have the memory of our world before. Do you understand what I'm saying? Some cataclysm happens. Every time some cataclysm happens, and then the new world happens. Now, this is what we've seen, but is it the opposite way around? Does the new world happen, and then the cataclysm comes, and then the people that remember the old world, some of them survive, and we get to tell the story of what our time has been? Is that what's happened in the past? So I think that, if we start talking now, if the world ended tomorrow and that some of us that are Mandela affected survive, we would be telling our story and would be trying to say in the future, look for these things in the sky, look for these things in the sky, look for this pattern. We'd be trying to put across our message. How it would be received by people in the future, they probably wouldn't understand our technology, all that kind of thing, exactly the same way, because everything we've been passed down is in stone, isn't it? Because that's the only thing that was left to them after the destruction of the old world. As far as prophecy is concerned, these things have been prophesied. So the Mayan prophecy is certainly showing that they had information from before our time, before this world. They carried it. The Mayans carried previous knowledge from a previous time, and they tried to warn us about the next time things would change. As the sun has actually turned white and it's no longer yellow in the sky, maybe that does have something to do with it, because they were talking about the sun. The sun and sun cycles really mattered to the Mayans. And that's exactly why the Mayan calendar finished at that time, because it was the long number, their long year, which was the amount of times it takes for the sun cycle to get to a certain point, without going into it too deeply. So they were definitely a people from before with information, trying to pass it on to us, weren't they? What they'd been through, they were now doing it in stone and trying to build a new society, but they brought with them the information from their last and past world. Now, before we were Mandela affected, we thought it was all metaphorical, didn't we? We thought it was metaphorical. But now we're Mandela affected, it's not necessarily metaphorical at all, is it? Because we can see that the world has changed physically for us. We can see that we are not in the same place that we were before. The last few years, in fact, right now, the geography is still changing, isn't it? We know that. The geography is still changing. So that shows to me that prophecy is something that we have to take more seriously, because it's making me think that we are the people that are next going to... I'm not saying everybody that's Mandela affected is going to be alive to spread the message, but we are the ones that hold the message of what happened last time, to us, and then we're going to try and tell people in front about it, that it has happened. Now, I do believe that there's going to be a cataclysm. I don't know what. I mean, I know Americans have been asked to prepare for 6 months without electricity. I know that the Russians have been warned similar. And now in Britain, we've got this suddenly, the government and the police forces all want us to have an emergency grab bag without any real clear reason as to why. But, these things, something's definitely going to be happening soon. I have no doubt about it. None at all. None at all. What it is, I don't know. But something really cataclysmic is going to happen. And so another thing I want to talk about, I've touched on it before, is the Hopi prophecy. No, in fact, I'm going to do the Sumerian first, because that makes more sense. I'll do the Sumerian. The Sumerians talked about something that I was very, very deeply into before I was Mandela affected, which is Nibiru and Planet X. And they were talking about the Anunnaki, a civilization that come from this planetary system, Nibiru, and that this is when the last catastrophe happened, that they will come back and like the earth will be cleansed, things will be changed. I'm touching on that very briefly, because the real point that I'm talking about here is that their prophecy is that Nibiru will return. Now, so far, sometimes it's been Planet 12, I've heard it written about, because we're on the ME and there are different... Oh, it's ridiculous. But we're waiting that, NASA and everybody on Earth is busy saying that there is no Planet X. But I've seen stuff on video, on YouTube, that you can quite clearly see that there is something out there. But the point here is that I've talked before, and it's time to talk about it. I have had dreams all of my life, since being a small child, before I could talk properly. And it started out with what looked like the moon. In my brain, in my dreams, it looked like the moon getting bigger to me. I always, as a toddler, I used to have to say goodnight to the moon. I had to see the moon every night, and because I was having these dreams. And these dreams continued throughout my life. Totally different to every other dream that I ever have. These dreams continue throughout my life, and each time the moon, or I thought was the moon, was getting larger and larger and closer and closer in the sky. Then in my 20s, my early 20s, they got more profound, and I was beginning to see other planets. It was showing us three other planets in the sky. And I had spent my whole life looking at the sky, waiting to see a change. Looking at the sky, waiting to see something that shouldn't be there. And I haven't really shared these dreams with many people, because they sound a bit crazy. But my loved ones, everybody in my family, they know that I have them. And it's when I got to 29 and a half, which apparently is where everything's aligned back up from when you were born, I hadn't had a dream for about 6 years, and suddenly I had this dream. It was very, very profound, and I had a series of them. And I saw the moon, but it wasn't the moon. It wasn't actually the moon. I thought it was the moon, but it wasn't. It was a big red planet, I thought, with two other planets. One white, one blue, in the sky. And believe me, I wake up crying after these dreams. It's not pleasant. It doesn't feel... they feel that different to me that I wake up crying. And so we have... then I had dreams about... I could... like balls of fire falling from the sky, balls of fire falling from the sky. And also I had a very, very precisely weird dream, whereas as I'm looking up into the sky, at the moment we can see chemtrails that cross over in grids. In my dream, the world was surrounded by a grid of red, like red electric. The electric, it could be plasma, I don't know what it was, but it looked like red electric in big square, you know, right the way across the sky. And I was in a mess waking up from that one. I was also then pulled straight back. So I was in complete darkness, like I was no body, it was just me, but the earth was tiny. So I was being taken out of that. Anyway, I didn't have any more dreams at all after 29 and a half, till about 6 weeks ago. And I had my last one, which was seeing the 3 stars completely there, directly in the sky, and knowing that the Nibiru system is coming towards me, that this was happening, and it's happening now. And yes, you might say that I've been watching things, therefore it's going to happen. But no, this is nothing. The feeling of the dream is not like an ordinary dream. It's a different thing entirely. When I have these dreams, and I get this feeling that you know, somebody's telling me, I know, you know. I get this, like somebody's telling me, you know. They're getting frustrated with me because I'm not grasping it, whatever it is. That was a running theme, that I'm supposed to know what this is. I ain't got a clue. But it does seem to be tying in with the Sumerian prophecy of the return of Nibiru, which now like I said, I've seen quite a few quite disturbing differences in our sky that have been captured, and I myself have captured something weird, but nothing like. Please go and see the Sea Fernard channel and the Sky Watchers with Nigel. He's brilliant. Please go and have a look at them. They'll show you some amazing things that ordinary people around the world have been capturing. So please go and have a look at those. So this is tying in with the Sumerian prophecy. Now, all of this is happening now at this particular time. These things, these prophecies, these things are all tying in with what's going on with us as Mandela affected people. The next one I'm going to touch on is now the Hopi prophecy, because the Hopi prophecy, the red and blue Kachina Hopi prophecy, it explains more than any other thing I have ever heard as to what is happening to us today. It talks about, I can't remember the names of them, but there are 2 stars and they're brothers, and they are to do with the North and South Pole. Now, we know that the North Pole's moving. In fact, where I am, in the reality that I'm in, the other day they actually said that the geographical North Pole and the celestial North Pole are now exactly the same. So the magnetic North Pole used to be completely different to the celestial North Pole. Now it's exactly the same. So this in the red and blue, you know, the red and blue Kachina, when the blue Kachina is seen in the sky, that's supposed to be the first thing, the blue star. And it comes with the red Kachina. The red Kachina comes last, and that is the destroyer. That is the God. That's God. Please go and have a look at the Hopi. Go and have a look for the Hopi. I mean, I've got it myself, but you don't have to look at my video about it. Please go and Google the red and blue Kachina, because it talks about how some people are. It actually says things like, and this is where it ties in myths and legends as well, because the Hopi prophecy talks about, this is where all of the doors are open to all of the different worlds and all of the different universes and all of everything, all of the different ones, and everything is coming together for this big one time. And it starts to explain a few bits and pieces as to what happens. Like it says that some people, it's like they call it drifting in and out of the dream time, which is very much with us switching in and out of reality. And it does explain that reality changes. It says reality changes. It also says that there will be beasts that were from the past will be seen again. And then it goes on to say there will be beasts that have never been seen. But everything wants to be here for this point, because this is the last time. This is the beginning. This is the 5th world happening. We're moving into the 5th world. The 5th reality is what we're doing. And the Hopi prophecy explains it from why the pole situation, to the dream world where we're slipping in and out of reality, where reality it clearly says reality is not stable. And also the Hopi prophecy then goes on to say, I mean, and this is where it really fits in with the Bible very much, because one day we're going to wake up and the world's red, the sky's red, and that means that the red kachina has arrived. Now, to them, I mean, the Hopi prophecy, the Hopi Indians, they say whether you want to call God, Allah, Buddha, whatever it is you want to call it, it's the same thing. It's the one creator, And the Hopi prophecy is very much, I mean, I can't begin to explain how much. You have to go and read it for yourself, because it does. It explains how some people are oblivious to it. They cannot see it. They, you know, all these changes are happening and some people don't even see it. Whereas to other people, we're seeing it and we're living it. And it also goes on to say things like where more than one spirit will be in a body. More than one spirit will be in your body at the same time. So, you know, what is, we all know that the Mandela effect is progressing, and what is to come we don't know. And it actually says that in the Hopi prophecy, that they cannot tell you what happens because reality is so unreal and so mixed up that they do not know exactly what's going to happen at the end, except for on the last day, the sky turns red, the red kachina arrives, and we are judged. You know, the earth is destroyed, the old is destroyed, and the new will happen. Some will perish, many will perish. Some will be alive to tell the story, but we don't know. They don't know what's going to happen. We don't. Nobody knows. Let's face it. Whatever you think you believe, whatever you think this is, nobody actually knows for sure. I respect you, and I mean, if I admire, if you think that you know what's happening, I wish I could get there. I'm not there yet. But there's any number of things that could be happening. And I do believe that, like I said, that links in with myth. Because the myths that were brought up and the legends that were brought up with, I now believe are based on reality of times gone by. Because it's quite clear that if this is happening to us now, that every other time the world was destroyed by God, it says by God, and the Hopi believe it's by the Creator, the same thing, whether it's in the Bible or the Hopi prophecy or the Mayan or the Sumerian. It's all based on the same thing. Where there has been a destruction time, God has destroyed one earth and he brings forth another one. We are at a place in time at the minute where we know that that actually means, like, in our physical existence, the world has changed in our physical existence. We thought that was all metaphorical in the past, but now we know differently. So myth, legend and prophecy, I think they're all interconnected. All interconnected because, I mean, things about unicorns and fairies and all of these things, why couldn't they have been on a previous earth? Why couldn't they have been in a previous reality? Why couldn't they have been at a time when realities were merging and some people remembered seeing them? Because we're not settling anywhere yet, are we? We're going through different realities all the time. So there's no reason to believe that they're completely made up. There may have been a world where there were dragons and fairies. Who are we to say? Who are we to say? Because we're living through a time where anything is possible. And I do really think that the myths and the legends, if you put them all together, they pretty much say the same thing, just in a different way. So the end, the Bible's end of the world fits in pretty damn, it's called Wormwood. This planet is called Wormwood in the Bible, but it's called Nibiru for the Sumerians. And it's called the blue and red kachina for the Hopi Indians. And it's all God. All of it is the Creator. Whatever you want to call it, whatever they're calling it, in whatever method they're trying to get that message out, it bears from the same point of a creator. So, excuse me, that's my thoughts today on prophecy, legend and myth, and the Mandela effect. I think that that's a possibility, that this is a natural thing, or supernatural obviously, but it's a cycle that we've been through before, because many talk about we were living in the fourth world, now we're clearly living in the fifth. We're moving into the fifth. The age of Aquarius is upon us, if you want to get all hippie and 70s about it. We know for a certain fact that the world has changed and that this has been prophesied. So I think we should be looking deeper into what the prophecies have to say. Although not many of them actually know what comes next. They don't actually tell us what comes next, do they? So we have glimpses, but I think it's about time that we took them seriously, because the ancient ones knew something that we don't know. Okay, so thank you once again for listening to my ramblings, my thoughts and my delirious way. I really do appreciate you for being here for me, for loving me, for listening to me, and for letting me know that I'm not alone. Believe me, that means more than anything. There was somebody on my last video that tried to say that, there was no community, Mandela effect community. There is. He might not belong to it, but there is. It's us. It's us. We are a community, whether we're living in the same reality or not, whether we're living in the same country or not, whether we have the same religion or not, whether we're the same race or not. It really none of that shit matters. We're human beings, and we have to be here for each other. Or we're spiritual beings having a not so human experience at the moment. It's an out there experience, but we're here having a human experience together. And in this case, we need each other, because going through this on our own, I know I couldn't do it. I know. And as I've said before many times, this is really just me getting it out of my system more than anything, because I can't keep it in. So I wanted to share that, I've had my own dreams from being a very small child that are not like normal dreams, that seem to be fitting in exactly with what's going on now, and the Hopi Indian prophecy. So yeah, we should, prophecies and legends and myths, I think, are based on something real. And we may be about to see it all again. I don't know. But as we know, anything's possible. So thank you, you wonderful, wonderful people. I'm going to hopefully be back online again a little bit more for the Facebook group. As some of you know, I've been dealing with some family issues and haven't been online, and had to grab my time doing this very quickly. So thank you for listening to my rambling once more, and I'm sending you my love. Until next time.